Hi, my name is Laura Witkoff, and I'm delighted to be here at the Network for Social Work Management Forward Thinking Summit Impact Talks. I'd like to start with a question. What if you could positively impact the lives of many with the push of a button? That's what social media offers us when used for good. I've always been interested in helping others. After all, I'm a social worker like many of you and saw my role as an advocate for change. I pursued my doctorate in social change and innovation to try to make a difference on a larger scale and focused on the area of marketing for the smaller social service sector, those with budgets under $10 million, to help raise their visibility since they can't use public dollars for public relations or marketing. I adapted a business process from Edward Deming, who utilized the Japanese philosophy and approach for improvement known as Kaizen. This business process focused on testing ideas quickly with a fast turnaround time. I replaced the action of doing with the action of engaging through a game-like approach and call this gamifying engagement. The goal was to elicit interest and activity from stakeholders, whether it was to make a decision or to see what marketing strategy might yield the biggest response before investing a lot of money into that particular strategy. I was busy offering workshops and gaining traction into this model and was super excited because I thought, oh, this is going to help the smaller sector. They can do all this planning around marketing before hiring a marketing person, or maybe use their marketing person in a slightly different way. It's going to have a lot of stakeholder input, and I was really excited. And then the air went out for all of us. COVID-19 hit. Like many of us, my work had to shift. I could no longer run workshops or consult in person, and my clients, the nonprofit and social impact organizations, were devastated and needed to pivot to address the needs of their clients. And the very last thing they were thinking about was marketing, and I can't blame them. I thought, though, what can I do that continues to support raising the visibility of these smaller organizations? What if I used my same model of gamifying engagement, but the engagement was offering stories of interest in an easily digestible conversational style? I thought utilizing an engagement strategy and maybe testing it out is really the thing that I need to think about doing. But how do I do that? How do I reach a large number of folks, the general public, and capture their attention and interest about these organizations? Maybe then folks could volunteer, donate, find a job, or get needed services. Most of the time, these smaller organizations don't get this visibility, so people don't know about them. How do I shift and change that? And how can I do this in a way that's not disruptive to their ongoing response to the pandemic? So I want to be able to do this in a way that's non-invasive, but really celebratory. So what's my go-to for learning and connection? And I thought, I listen to a lot of podcasts and I teach on Zoom. So those are my two connections to the outside world other than going to the grocery store. Could sharing about the work of these organizations be an interesting podcast topic? All of this was really new to me and very scary. What if no organizations want to participate? I've never interviewed anyone publicly before or even used my voice memo recording on my iPhone, but I felt compelled to do something that could offer these organizations anything that might be useful to them. As our fellow social worker Brene Brown says, vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. And I certainly felt vulnerable. Sometimes you just have to jump in and be vulnerable. And in January 2021, the podcast Small and Gutsy, Big Little Social Impact Sector was born. Small and Gutsy is an audio journey into the life of this smaller but mighty nonprofit and social impact organizational sector for the sole purpose of celebrating their impactful work. There's no catch. It's pro bono, and it's that simple, which always comes as a surprise to the organizations I reach out to. I believe the opportunity to network and connect will yield a sustainable model over time. 67% of the 1.5 million nonprofits in the U.S. are under $10 million. So it's a very, very large network. Small social impact organizations also fall into this category of trying to launch and grow while addressing a social need. I fall in love with each organization I interview. These are really just conversations. No questions are prepared in advance because I don't know where the conversations will lead. And this organic nature is really both an interview style, intentional, and also a curiosity for me to really be open to what they want to share. However, I do always close the podcast with the same quick and gutsy questions, which are fun, light, and always reveal a bit more about the organizations. Particularly the question, if you were to think of a song that describes your organization, what would it be?
Here Comes the Sun.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Let me look through my playlist.
Because this is like the quick answer section, I'm just going to say the first thing that came to my mind.
Absolutely.
The Impossible Dream.
Oh, I love it. No, perfect answer.
I think the Harbor song, it's amazing. It's written by Julie Lipson, and Julie has been with us since day one, 2009. They have a band called Ants on a Log, which is children's music, and they're
Love
just
it.
really wonderful. This harbor is safe. This harbor is warm. This harbor is where I can weather a storm. This harbor begins and ends with you and me, and there's no place I'd rather be.
I think their passion about the organization comes out even more when they connect it to a song. I've even had a few guests who burst into song. It's really funny, sweet, endearing, and truly genuine.
I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it.
That's great.
I have had the great pleasure of interviewing organizations that glean produce to give to those who don't have access to fresh fruit and vegetables, those creating and building urban gardens for learning and nourishment, cancer organizations, one that included a 5,000-mile bike ride across the U.S., and then wrote about the chaos of the cancer journey from 15 different perspectives. An opera company, a dance film festival and music production nonprofit that bring equity to those industries, an organic farm, mental health, including one that utilizes anime as their engagement strategy within their community, grief programs, programs that address race and equity, including a running club, youth development that focuses on wrestling as a metaphor for life, summer camp for specialized populations, youth programs that focus on the whole family, entrepreneurship that supports those in developing countries toward economic independence, innovative programs that utilize social media and other mechanisms to bring internet connection to rural areas in Africa, adaptive games for kids and young adults on the autism spectrum or with other limitations, an organization that developed an app that brings the concepts of giving and taking together while reducing our carbon footprint. Resource Center for Individuals with Any Disability, organizations that want to eradicate homelessness, others focused on supporting and empowering young women, organizations serving youth in our most vulnerable communities, whether to support them living in difficult circumstances, violent neighborhoods, or managing the stigma associated with having an incarcerated loved one. And those that provide our young children with safety tips from a delightful animated red Dalmatian, as well as a well-known organization that supports the development of social work managers and leaders. And I bet you can guess who that interviewee was. Our very own Network for Social Work Management's Dr. Lakia Cherry.
Thank you, Dr. Wetkoff. I really appreciate the invitation.
Throughout these last 5 months, I can't even believe it's been just 5 months, I have discovered some common themes that I think are worth sharing with you. Outsiders often think these organizations are much bigger than they actually are because they do so much with so little.
When they find out that there are only 3 paid people and 1 full-time volunteer, just this year alone, we harvested 240,000 pounds of fruit. They are blown away.
So I do all of the day-to-day operations, the fundraising, etc.
In terms of the number of staff, the amount of work that goes on internally, it's just quite amazing.
People are often surprised that we don't have hundreds of employees behind the scenes, that it is 2 people.
Organizations had to quickly pivot during COVID-19. I don't think that's a surprise, but most went to providing food or emotional support outside of their respective missions, sometimes having nothing to do with their missions.
Early March and April, when running wasn't on top of mind for a lot of people, including our runners, what was worrying to them was being able to eat, being able to afford groceries. And the basic concept was buy supermarket gift cards for people who can't afford to eat.
If we're already going to be growing food, let's might as well grow food and then give it away. So what we did is we were purchasing about 7,000 to 10,000 pounds of fresh produce. We were talking bananas, pineapple, cucumbers. Some of the recipients of this produce were seniors. They were elderly. There were pregnant women who said, I don't have a chance of getting any relief.
Early on in the season, people were looking for home gardening. So we shifted and pivoted to provide seedlings. And then we bulked up our CSA. People were looking for more food stability and food resilience. We shift and pivot to whatever the community is asking for.
However, the most key thematic piece that was such a warm, wonderful awakening for me is absolutely none closed their doors. They just innovated. They just pivoted. Everyone I've interviewed has a deep personal connection to the organization's purpose and mission, and that might not be surprising. But what really was the common theme that I heard is it never feels like a job. They do this work because they are driven to do this work, and that honestly keeps me wanting to continue interviewing them.
This is a labor of love for me. I do not get paid to do this. This is something that I really believe in my heart and in my spirit.
To continue to do this for 26 years, to do the right thing. Some people can't even do it for 26 minutes. To go against the grain and to be like salmon swimming upstream, to me, that's gutsy.
Those I've interviewed have actually loved the conversations, and so have I. Their passion is contagious, which is a common theme. I hope my enthusiasm for what they do honors their passion and their work.
Know about the wrestling, they're passionate about the wrestling, but the fact that we're doing trauma-informed coaching and mentoring and development, the fact that our kids are working for us. We were running a meal site all through COVID.
We've done so many things for so many kids, and actually some of these kids, after being so many years, one of the kids was my dentist, or the other kid was my banker. And
I love it.
So it was incredible because, I met them at their happiest moments.
You just had this big, awesome, incredible weekend. It's high energy. And then you just crash at the end of it. And it's like, that's actually a normal feeling.
What makes us gutsy is passion. We know there's a need and it's got to be done.
Part of our mission. We want to end the war on drugs. And we're going to say it bold and we're going to say it loudly. The war on drugs has no place in our society anymore.
As you can see, the interviews are relaxed and conversational in style. I'm a social worker and it shows. I always tell my guests that I'm not a journalist out for that negative gotcha aha moment, but a social worker interested in truly celebrating their work. To date, I have interviewed 40 organizations and released 20 podcasts. My sound engineer, composer, and co-producer, Pavel Franson, and I are committed to releasing an episode every Monday. Not only have I learned so much about and from each of these organizations, but their journeys give me pause to see what can be possible when passion guides us to what we are meant to do. Maybe it took a pandemic or stepping into my own vulnerability, or both, to find the courage to do something that I hope will raise the visibility of this small but mighty sector. And along the way, I have and am continually inspired by those I interview, and that inspiration outweighs any insecurity I might feel. Many organizations have shared projects that they are considering, and as an interesting byproduct that I had never thought about or envisioned actually, is that we discovered that there are several organizations that could actually benefit from some type of collaboration. So we end up connecting those two organizations who might not otherwise have known about the other. And this gives me the thought that maybe this is a next iteration of Small and Gutsy. We're going to keep the podcast going. We're committed to that. But maybe there's another way that we can start connecting these organizations so that they can find information from each other, resource, and perhaps even join together on a project. You never know the impact you can have on others until you try. I've learned that the organizations, although small, are in fact mighty impactful. So, what if you could positively impact the lives of many with the push of a button? Would you take the risk? Would you be willing to be vulnerable? What would that feel like? And most importantly, what button would you push? From small and gutsy to big with impact, I'm Laura Witkoff, and thanks for listening.